back to 755 is real. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer for The Athletic. I'm with my co-host Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. What's happening, Eric? How you doing, man?
Well, I'm good. Waking up. How you doing?
That's right. It's a little early out in Seattle or out in Walla Walla.
Yeah, it is.
Walla
Yeah,
Walla time.
yeah, yeah.
That's like Tulsa time.
You keep giving me good TV shows to watch, and I stay up late watching them.
Did you guys are well into Mr. Mercedes now?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Isn't it good shit?
We watched the whole season in like 3 days.
That's good, man.
It's not good though, because we put our kids to bed at like 10 o'clock. Like they wind up staying up late or something, and we throw that on, and then all of a sudden those shows are hard to turn off. We go to bed at like 12:30. The kids are up at 6 a.m.
I like the Irish detective.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
He's great. And the music's a plus.
Yeah.
He's old crusty dude like me with his turntable. All right. Well,
there.
we had an interesting weekend for sure with the Bravos, man. But it's funny to hear people know better. They've followed the Braves for a while. They followed baseball for a while. They should know better than to panic, but we're still close enough to football season that people panic when your team starts 0-3. And they forget that it's roughly the equivalent of the first half of the first quarter of one football game.
It's like giving up a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's like going down.
It's
6
like the
nothing.
opening couple of possessions of a football season.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't just that they lost all three, but the way they lost, and people see the offense didn't do anything. But it'd be more of a concern for me if the pitching didn't do anything, because there's no question about the offense. Everybody's back from the second best offense in baseball last year, the team that led the majors in OPS. Adam Duvall's absence did not make that big of a dent in the team that led the majors in OPS and were second in runs and homers to the Dodgers. So I'm just not worried about the offense. What happened was the Braves didn't hit, but they ran up against a Phillies team that is going to be a lot better than last year because the pitching's so much better. But you ran up against three aces, man. Eflin pitched like an ace this weekend in game 3. But the first two guys, I mean, Nola and Wheeler, you're not going to get faced much better than they pitched when you face the Mets or the Nationals. I mean, those two guys looked like legit, those were ace performances. And then the bullpen for the Phillies is night and day from last year. I know it's early. We didn't get deep into that bullpen because it didn't have to, but the back end guys are so much better that they brought in to go with Neris.
Yeah. Well, when I watched the series, I just felt like it just came down to the Phillies hits fell in when they needed to, and the Braves didn't. The Braves hit some balls pretty hard. Yep. Acuna hit a ball about 170 miles an hour up the middle right at somebody. I mean, you saw little things like that, and the Phillies just seemed to beat them up with cheap hits, and that's baseball. There's really nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, I mean, people don't want to hear. They think it's excuses if you say it, but if you look at the exit velos throughout the series until the third game, the Braves were just dominant in that area. I mean, they had about 8 out of 10 of the hardest hit balls in the series, I think, in the first couple of games. So, especially that first game, there was a crazy stat. Max Fried had the second hardest hit, had a harder hit ball than all but one of the balls hit against him by the Phillies.
Yeah, that's a good stat.
That said all you needed to know. Yeah. So, the Braves hit some balls hard right at people, but, they didn't get much from their top 4 guys. There's no doubt. But that could change in one game. I mean, are you going to be at all surprised if they come out in game 1 against Scherzer, and the top 4 get, 8 hits? I'm not. No. I mean, that top 4 is going to hit. They just didn't get anything to fall, and some of them didn't have great at bats in the Phillies series.
Anytime people are freaking out early in a baseball season, I always just tell them to put it in perspective. Like, you're not even going to remember this in June. There's going to be so much crap that happens from now between then. You won't even remember how the series played out. You might remember they got swept, but you're not going to remember the games. It's same things when you're playing,
Yeah.
A guy starts off, he has a rough spring and he starts off hitting 1 for 16. Are you worried about him if he won the MVP last year? You know, I mean, it's just such a long season. You know, if you're a player, you're looking at it. We got 159 games left.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you won't even remember this.
Yeah. They're probably going to get swept a couple other times during the
Yeah.
season. And
But
you
when it
won't remember
starts the
that when they got
season, it's
swept.
a
Yeah.
big deal, I guess. But when you look
Obviously.
back at it, you know, you're going to get swept by a lot worse team than the Phillies this year, most likely.
Yeah, you're gonna have a bad series or two. You're gonna have a bad stretch or two where you go 1-5 or whatever. But yeah, they did avoid any long skids last year, which was kind of instrumental in them winning it because it was a 60-game season.
Yeah.
But you're back to 162 now, so it means even less.
Yeah.
As long as you right the ship and don't fall too far behind, you're
Yeah.
perfectly fine. I mean,
You don't want to get swept ever, but I
no,
mean, like you said, I would have been a lot more concerned if Charlie came out and looked
yeah,
bad,
exactly.
or you know, Anderson looked really bad. He didn't have his best stuff, but he still pitched pretty well.
Yeah, he pitched a lot better than he did in spring training.
Yeah, and
I thought he
Freed,
pitched. Yeah,
yeah, he did. He looked a lot better.
I thought the two good signs were from the pitching was uh, Ian Anderson and Max Fried. Neither had their A game, maybe, but both of them
Yep.
did great damage control and
Yeah,
ended up having pretty solid outings. Max had a solid outing, man, and he didn't. He was not even close to being his best. And the same token, the final line on Charlie wasn't great, but man, that guy until that fifth inning, he was as good as
yeah,
you could possibly have hoped he would be. He looked that
yep,
the stuff was nasty.
yeah,
The movement he was getting on mid 90s, curveball. He was I liked everything I saw from him. He had a couple of balls. That inning didn't go his way. Walked a guy, hit a guy, and it was like it just kind of came apart. But I really liked what I saw from Charlie overall.
yeah. Charlie looked great. I mean, you didn't see that inning coming the way he was throwing, but
Yeah,
like I said, I mean, it wasn't like they were just hitting shots off him, and you know, he got to the fifth lucky. You know, he looked dominant for most of the start, and you have a bad inning.
yeah,
And early in the season, you get yanked, but I mean, he could have gone easily 6, 7 innings later in the year, and the line doesn't even look. It looks like a good start. You know, it looks like a great start. So,
um,
whatever.
I guess the only surprise with Ian was of all the pitches for him not to have. I don't remember last year in games where he didn't have the changeup where it wasn't working very well,
Yeah,
but it wasn't. But I think it showed the importance of him developing that curveball because he said that's what kept him in the game.
yeah,
So when his changeup is normal and he's got that curveball now, he's throwing some good curveballs, man. I like him with 3 pitches. That could really be a key for him this year because he's obviously not going to surprise anybody this year.
yeah. I don't know. His velo looked a little bit down, but you know, with his fastball, it's not necessarily pure velocity. It's the angle that it comes out with, the backspin and that ride up in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
But still having that third pitch, I think it was his changeup he was talking about that he worked on a ton last year. I can't remember which one it was, but
Before
I think
last year.
before last year, yeah, he
Yeah.
worked on his changeup a ton, and that was a difference maker for him.
Yeah, the changeup's been good, but it got better. But that's been his pitch since the minors, but it got better.
Oh,
But the
okay.
curveball is what he's been working on
Curveball.
since last year. Yeah, yeah.
His curveball's so good. I thought he had that all the time.
No, um, I thought the whole series, man, was really for a first series was really well pitched. God, it
Hmm.
was like you're not used to seeing that in the first series of a year. But guys were dotting, and the umps I thought gave them a good strike zone. It was good. It was nice to see the umps have a pretty big strike zone, um, especially vertically. Or yeah, well, it varied from ump to ump, but because a couple of them were given high strike, the top of the strike zone too. But I like to see that. They weren't getting squeezed, and it made the games go faster. I think kind of like spring training, the games went a lot faster. I think the umps are doing a better job at the strike zone this year.
Yeah, I say that all the time though. That you know, they tinker with the game so much, but from the time I played, you used to be able to throw if it was righty righty or lefty lefty, you could throw a fastball this far off the plate,
Mm-hmm.
right here, like 2.5 inches, and if you hit the glove, it was a strike.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since they put that box on the TV screen and
Yeah,
players could run down in the dugout and check it and yell back at the ump,
yeah,
I feel like that's what's really slowed down the pace of the game because guys are willing to strike out on a pitch, you know, a quarter of an inch off the plate, and they can yell at the ump. The next at bat, the zone gets tighter and tighter.
yeah.
You know, I feel like if they opened up the zone and just let umps have whatever zone they wanted, you know, the game would go a lot faster. But I know that piss fans off.
I thought Ian had a couple of pitches that should have been strikes, and he didn't really complain. He kind of, when he turned his back, he did, but for the most part, the other guys, I don't remember many pitches that I thought were strikes and didn't get called strikes. But
There was one on Acuna to strike out yesterday that was a little below the zone.
yeah,
But
yeah,
even
that
those,
was. They had a couple at the bottom of the zone for
mhm.
sure, the bottom or below.
I guess my thought is, and it's the same way for when a pitcher, when a pitcher or hitter gets screwed. My thought is just that keeping the game flowing, you can't get so hung up on balls and strikes, or that you get that drag. Like it feels like a Yankees Red Sox game back in the past.
Here we go. My
Are you
internet
there?
connection is unstable. We're on now.
We lost you.
Did you? Okay, but let's before we dive into some other stuff that happened around baseball. Did you see the whole first weekend dust up between the Reds and the Cardinals? With
Yeah.
St. Louis was wearing those sweet blue unis, by the way, man. I love those.
Yeah.
You don't usually see that first weekend of the season. There's a little dust up like that.
No, I mean, maybe division foes
Yeah.
sometimes. I mean,
Carry over.
it carry over, and Yachty seems to always be in the mix of something. But I don't. Baseball's the only sport where people are rooting for the players to be bigger assholes right now. Like I don't know what other sport people want to see somebody screaming somebody's face, but
Hockey, they love it.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
part of the game in hockey.
But
though.
hockey, they get to fight.
Yeah, it's part of the game.
Yeah, but they get to fight.
And to hockey's credit, man, thank God they have not allowed political correctness or people concerned about safety to drum the fights out of it, because without the fights, hockey's just not the same game, man.
Yeah, yeah, you got to respect that. But it would be nice, guy shows you up, or because I guess that's what kind of drives people crazy is baseball. Everybody gets their feelings hurt, and then they go scream at each other, and then it goes back to normal. It'd be great if hitter gets drilled, and instead of yelling at each other, they just get to square off on the mound.
I I mean, call me crazy, but I don't have a problem with it at all. I like when teams go at it because it shows passion. It's interesting. It shows you how much they care, enough to fight and get thrown out of games. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, to me, as a fan watching or whatever, teams are vested in this when they are willing to throw the gloves down and go.
Yeah.
It means they're not just out there getting a paycheck and going through 162. It means it matters. They're emotional.
Yeah.
Fiery.
And I think, part of that is you do see that early because everybody's got that adrenaline of the
Yeah.
opening week where it's a lot harder to bring that energy every day for 162. You see that in June or mid-July. It's even more impressive.
Yeah, I guess you've been sitting home for 3 months, especially with the pandemic, not doing much. You're right. You got a
Yeah.
chance. It's an outlet.
Yeah.
But like you said, Yachty doesn't need much. And my question is a simple one here. Is there anyone in baseball you would take in a straight up fight with Yachty or Molina right now? We can't go back to
Yeah,
our
I mean,
buddy.
I don't know, because you haven't really seen the guys fight. That's kind of the safety
Yeah.
net you get in baseball is you can talk all the shit you want. I mean, who would you have taken between Hunter Strickland and Bryce Harper? You don't know till you saw them, and then they squared off, and I still don't know.
I would have taken
'cause-
Strickland.
Yeah, right. But I used to think Brett Laurie was just the most explosive, intimidating human I played with, because he's drinking like 45 cups of coffee before the game and bouncing off the walls. But we had a run in Oakland with him and a shortstop. Laurie had thrown like a fit, and he broke his bat. And our shortstop Simeon went up and got right in his face. And I was like, man, you're a psychopath. But Simeon wasn't scared at all. So, you kind of have guys that you don't know what's in somebody until you see them fight, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
There have been some over the years, man, in recent years. Obviously, the former briefly Braves pitcher at the top of the list. You played with him, right?
Farnsworth, yeah.
Yeah, Farns.
I'd take him
Farns is
over
at the top of
anybody.
any list. I had Kevin Brown, man, and I would have put him up just because he was so crazy. But I tell you what, BJ was ready to take him out at a spring training game. Of course, BJ is a former NFL player. Anytime a guy's a former NFL player, he's going to the top of the list, man.
My money's on him.
especially if he was a D-back. He wasn't like a
Yeah.
quarterback, you know. He
Yeah.
wasn't a punter.
But you see baseball fights, man, and you could tell, I mean, the technique's not really there. So
Right.
guys are just flailing at each other sometimes. And that, somebody that really knows how to fight, it'd be a totally different story. But Farnsworth,
Yeah,
you can
Scott.
tell, is used to confrontation.
Yeah, and Farnsey had like mixed martial arts. He had like a black belt, and so did the former Cubs. Who was the former guy that pitched for the Cubs? He had a similar incident where he took a guy out for charge the mound, reliever.
Hmm. I don't remember that.
I can't think. He had like a third-degree black belt or whatever too. Cubs
Yeah,
reliever.
that changes the game.
Yeah,
It's fun to act tough, but I
yeah.
mean, that's what I mean. In baseball, you kind of got a cushion where all your teammates are going to run out there. A lot of respect for Amir Garrett last year,
That it
or
just
2
took
years
my
ago,
thunder, man.
just running at a whole dugout.
It took my thunder. But well, I was just going to say my rule of thumb. First of all, back in the day when I was a dumbass that would get like in a bar would say stuff to guys, hit on their girlfriends, that kind of thing. My rule of thumb was
Dob coming to steal your girl.
I was snass in bars, man.
I could see it.
But my rule of thumb: neck tat, facial tats, or anything that could be construed as a possible prison tat, spider web on the elbow, that kind of thing. Steer the fuck clear. You know, I would not get involved in that. Even under an altered state, I would not mess with those guys. But Yachty's neck tat is just one of the many reasons I would not mess with Yachty, though. That dude's intense, man.
Yeah.
He's always intense. And he's got that serious dad, old man strength vibe going too. You know, like I have seen everything, son. You don't want to mess with me. That whole thing, it just reeks of it.
The catchers get beat up. They're used to a little pain. Mine's always the cauliflower. If you see somebody with that cauliflower ear,
absolutely
show them respect.
Well, that if they have that, pretty much they were a wrestler or a mixed martial arts guy or a boxer,
Yeah.
But really wrestlers and mixed martial arts those ears are burgered, man. Gnarly ears.
There was a football player video maybe 2 or 3 weeks back, maybe a month back. College football player got in a fight at a bar.
Yeah.
With a
OU player.
Little dude. Yeah, OU player.
Yeah.
That's just why you don't mess with anybody. It was the guy turned out to be a trained, UFC or mixed martial arts fighter and just destroyed him.
Yeah.
Probably had like 7 inches on him and maybe 45 pounds.
Yeah. Walt Weiss, that's a guy with the gnarled ear. You don't want to mess with Walt Weiss.
Nope.
He's got the background, the mixed martial arts training and all that. That said, I was going to name the one guy you just said. Amir Garrett is the one guy that comes to mind in the current players who that he might be able to handle himself with Yachty. I'll never forget last year that Garrett, when he wanted to take up, was that last year or the year before, I guess?
2 years ago, I'm thinking.
When he wanted to take on the whole Pirates bench. I mean, he raced over there, broke away from his coach.
He
And
did take on the whole bench.
I'm going over there. Anybody wants to fight me on the bench can come out. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody came out and fought him either.
No, they came out a little late, but I mean, you're not expecting your pitcher to do that. You normally see things intensify to the point where they get to pushing and shoving, but he just took off on a dead sprint. He didn't want any help.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
And put together. I think he's a former hoops player, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah. And he's not skinny.
No.
Well, the other thing, just to put things in perspective for Braves fans who came away from that first weekend kind of going, wow, I waited for that. Let's just look at around baseball a little bit real quickly. The Yankees lost 2 out of 3. The White Sox lost 3 out of 4. The Orioles lead the AL East. They're 3-0. The White Sox are alone in last place in the AL Central at 1-3. The A's are alone in last place in the AL West at 0-4. The Brewers and the Cardinals share last place with the Pirates in the NL Central at 1-2. And yes, the Braves are alone in last place in the NL East at 0-3. So, in other words, it's almost like you took the standings, preseason predictions, and turned them upside down. Which,
yeah, I mean, you could look at the standings late April, early May, mid-May. There's always a team that nobody thought was going to be good. I think Seattle did it a few years back, but you look at teams that nobody expects to be good, and everybody gets excited and jumps on this bandwagon. And if you're watching them and baseball, you're like, they're going to fall off.
Yeah.
and it almost always happens. It felt like when I was with the Braves, the Marlins always got off to a hot start. They were always, either 3 games up in first place somehow in early May, and people are asking if they're for real. But when you're playing against teams, you're like, no, we're going to be there.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about the Braves. I don't even worry
And
about 3 games.
I think that's generally right. That's because the teams with the money, with the talent, are going to, not necessarily the money, but usually the money, but also the talent, like the Rays or whatever, or the Braves that are deep. That depth is going to play out over the course of a season, where you can get by with, a limited minor league system and backups and a decent, not very good bench for a while, but it's going to catch up with you over the course of it. That's why baseball's so different, man. I mean,
I always wonder how, I don't, you're not going to do it, but how baseball games would be if you only played 16. I mean, are you selling out every game and then all of a sudden every play matters like it does now? And guys didn't have time to let the water find its level. I think excitement wise, you'd have a lot of fans in the game, because people sit through a football game, doesn't take much longer, and they watch every play, right? But a 162 game baseball season, you can just come back in a week.
Yeah, baseball is more like following a soap opera for a year. It's a different mentality.
Yeah,
and it's a thinking man sport.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have an attention span for, first of all, type of person that maybe reads once in a while to follow a team over the full season, day in, day out, or to even follow most games.
Yeah,
football's it's a whole different participatory event as far as watching. Anybody can get excited, especially you're watching in a group setting, especially when you have fantasy football and most of all gambling. I mean, so many people gamble on the games. They have a vested interest, can keep you just locked in for 3 hours once a week. Anybody can do that, when guys are beating the hell out of each other, especially. But
you try to manage a fantasy baseball team is a full-time job.
Yeah.
People don't do that. They don't get into it because they have to check their lineup and manage it and be on top of everything 7 days a week. Where fantasy football, you can check in on Saturday and set everything up.
What did you look at as the date when the line of demarcation, or whatever, the date where you could really thin the herd a little bit in baseball? Did you look at July 4th? Did you look at the end of May? When did you look? What do you look at as time? Okay, let's give it a month or two. Where what Memorial Day? What's the date you look at when you like to look at the standings and go, okay, now I'll start to pay attention?
Probably the All-Star break.
That long, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, if you're 15 games back, it's a wrap.
Right.
It's going to take a miracle, but
But if you're 5 back, you're still good team. It's nothing.
You still got.
It's nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing, and that's what's. I don't like to downplay it. Every game matters, but
right. But it's different than even last year when 60 game season. You didn't
last year
5 games back.
Last year, I didn't know how to gauge, because if you get off to a bad start in a 60 game season, those first 20 games, that's a third of the year.
Yeah.
You get off to a bad 20 games this year, you'll see teams do that and win the division.
Or even last year, if the Braves would have got off to this 0-3 start last year, it would have been like the equivalent of getting in a regular season. What, 1/20th? It would have been like getting off to an 0-8 start in a regular season. So that's different,
Yeah.
0-8 would be different coming out of the gate. 0-8. That's a concern.
Yeah. That's a concern.
0-3 is not.
That's hard to undo.
Yeah. But it has been done. Whatever. But it is a lot harder. Really, the only division right now with current standings that are as predicted, kind of, the consensus is the NL West, because the Dodgers and the Padres are 3-1 atop the division.
But they're by far the 2 best teams in that division.
And they didn't have to open against each other. So obviously. But that was interesting. Maybe the craziest stat I saw this weekend was Fernando Tatis Jr. made 5 errors. I mean, what the hell's that? He had 3 last season.
I bet it's a little harder to focus and have that drive when you get 350.
Yeah. A couple were throws too, just bad throws.
Yeah. He'll lock in. He hit a bomb yesterday.
Oh, that was.
I don't know how he has. He's not a big guy. Yeah, 460, I think. I mean, That's why baseball's different too. He's not a big guy.
He's not,
He can
man. He's
he's hitting
wiry,
balls. Yeah,
but he's thin. He's a
yeah,
slender guy. He looks like a runner almost, a sprinter.
yeah. That's why he's so valuable too, because he can actually play shortstop and hit like that.
Yeah.
Most guys with that type of pop have to be at a corner position.
Of the 28 teams that have played so far, the only winless teams in baseball are the Braves, Red Sox, and the A's. The Red Sox are the only team from that three that I would have, that I'm not expecting anything out of. The other, I mean, the Braves and A's are going to be good again. They always are.
They always compete.
But how about if you're a Red Sox fan today, because they have the highest priced ticket in the sport because the ballpark's so small. And I'm sure they're having very limited attendance probably at the lower end of percentage wise. I haven't looked, but so their season tickets are got to be expensive. And the Orioles went into Boston and swept the Red Sox in a 3-game series. It's just one weekend, but that's a little shocking, man. The Orioles.
It's hard for me to care what happens to the Red Sox after trading Mookie Betts.
Yeah, they get what they deserve
in that market. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to wish bad on anybody, but I don't feel bad for them. Even if you go to
their fans were pissed a year ago because they traded him all year. They're like, how did we trade Mookie Betts? Because then he goes and does what he does with the Dodgers to win a World Series. And now they start the new season. Yeah, now they start the new season by getting swept by the Orioles, the dregs of the division.
I wonder, did they bump up the season ticket prices too with less fans?
I don't know. It's a good question. I'm sure the secondary market, the prices are sky high, but yeah. I don't think they bumped up the prices for season tickets, but I'd have to look that up. But so the Braves 3 runs are the fewest in the majors among the 28 teams that have played, of course. The Red Sox with 5 runs are the only other team with fewer than 8. Braves hitters had the fewest walks in the majors. This was kind of startling. 5 walks in that 3-game series, with the third most strikeouts, 35. 7. That's not a good ratio, 7-1. It's a good ratio if you're a pitcher.
Yeah.
Hell of a ratio if you're a pitcher. Maddox-like ratio. Braves are tied with the Dodgers, who also have 35 strikeouts in 4, but they've played 4 games, and they have more than 4 times as many walks as the Braves. Dodgers have 23 walks. So of the Braves, get this, man, this stat. The Braves have 5 walks. Freddie has 3 of them.
Mm.
So that's 1 apiece by Acuna and Ozuna. And that's it for the whole series. Which I don't know if that says more about the Phillies pitchers or about the Braves hitters or both.
A little bit of both, maybe some anxiousness on the Braves part, trying to getting excited for that opening series. But the Phillies pitched well. You got to give them credit.
They really did.
I don't care how good you pitch.
Wheeler looked like a Cy Young candidate for sure.
Yeah,
with that performance.
His question's just been health. He's been hurt a lot. That's why people were shocked he got that deal after. Even he's been riding the DL half his career, but the reason he's gotten the chances that he's got is because that's in there. And he put together that big year when he did. And anytime you can throw 98 like that, easily a smooth, just sit 98. You're going to get paid.
Yes, I mean, it's effortless. So Charlie Morton said, I hadn't seen him much, in person. And Charlie said, he's a lot like DeGrom, long, easy gas, almost effortless. And I mean, you're watching him. If you didn't have any idea who he was, you don't pay close attention to the sport, and you watch that game, you would think, what is this, the best pitcher in baseball? I mean, he looked great.
Yeah.
97, 100, like it's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been taking the Phillies as serious, but if when you see something like that, it definitely puts a team on your radar. If those 2 guys at the top and Eflin, and they can pitch like that, I mean, but that's why everybody's saying this is going to be the toughest division in the game. Because
no doubt in my mind.
You take a team for granted like the Phillies, and they got that to throw at you. I mean, I don't know. I don't care how good you pitch, though. Nobody's holding the Braves lineup down if they're locked in.
Yeah, the Nationals now the problem with this for the Braves for this Nationals getting their first 4 games postponed. I mean, if you're in the Nats, that's a
Yeah,
horrible
now
way to
they're going
start
to
the
line
season,
up bad.
obviously. Uh
Now they're going to line up bad given.
yeah. Now they get Scherzer. Well, they're only going to play 2 games because they got postponed today. So they would have got Scherzer, Strasburg, and Corbin. They're 1, 2, 3. So instead, I'm assuming they're just going to get Scherzer and Strasburg
Yeah.
for the 2-game series. So instead of getting, if the Nats would have played the Mets, the Braves would have got their 4, 5, and then Scherzer at in game 5 or in game 6, the third game of the series. But instead, they'll get Scherzer and Strauss. But the good thing for the Braves is they haven't released their rotation plans yet, but this should allow them to avoid doing that bullpen game. So that works out well.
Yeah.
So you get Smiley that makes his debut in game tomorrow, Tuesday, against Scherzer. And then you'd have Max Fried coming back on regular rest in the second game of the series against Strasburg.
Yeah,
Nice
that
matchups.
helps. That helps actually in a sense, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't ever want to have, you don't want to sit, when you get off to that rough start like they did. You'd rather just play and be out there than worry about matching up better. But yeah, I mean, it's 3 games.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. Is if you're a player, I would think after a series like that, you get on what did they probably take? They went from DC. They probably took they rented a
Take it.
train a couple years ago. I didn't ask what they were doing this year, but however you get to DC, do you want you get there last night? So instead of playing today, you're going to have all day. They'll probably go work out at the park, after the Nationals or before the Nationals. But would you much rather have played today than sit around and commiserate about
Yeah.
what just happened in Philly?
Yeah. I mean, the sooner the better.
Yeah.
If pitchers, hitters, and nobody wants time off after they struggle because you got to sit and think about it. And when you can get back out there, I mean, I hated off days as a player because you kind of stiffen up and get out of your routine. You want to just keep going
Yeah.
and you want to fix it. So that's what I was thinking is if this whole series got canceled,
Yeah, that
that
would
put
have
them
been
in
bad.
a really rough spot because I don't know. You remember we had that hurricane
Yep. Never recovered,
2000,
man.
2011. We thought we had the Division 1.
Up in New York. You were in New York.
We thought we had we thought we had a spot locked up, and it was a wild card actually, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were at, I don't even know. I don't even want to say how big that lead was, but we had that hurricane, and you wind up taking 2 or 3 days off and just coming out of it slow, and the other team's been playing the whole time. It's kind of takes a second to shake that rust off. But it could be
Yeah.
good too to have a day off if to break up the momentum too.
Um, the which we forgot to mention the worst part of the series. To me, there was no concern about the offense at all. No concern about anything. The only thing coming out of that series that you're worried about, the big worry, is Chris Martin.
Yeah.
He leaves the game yesterday. Snit was very vague, but whenever I hear Snit said, I asked Snit what was the situation with Chris Martin because he leaves in the middle of a batter, which is never good. But Chris Martin's had some nagging stuff, a lot of nagging stuff that's set him back. It seems like each time he's out longer than you think he's going to be. But Snit said fingers. He felt something in his fingers. That's all he said. But to me, that's always with a pitcher. It always seems to be later if they say it was a tingling sensation. Now, I don't know because he didn't say, but I don't know what else you'd feel in your fingertips. And usually that's what forearm flexor and all that. And those are usually things that can be a lot worse than if you had a slight twinge in other places.
Yeah, fingers isn't good. I mean, that's something going on with your ulnar nerve usually. I mean, there's 2 nerves that run through there, but if it's numb fingers, I mean, sometimes it's just inflammation in that joint. But my advice to him would be don't get an MRI because you get an MRI all of a sudden. I mean, they'll if they do an MRI on any pitcher's elbow, you're finding a tear. There's no pitcher with a perfect UCL. I would just say don't do an MRI, take some Advil and a few days off, or you might get Tommy John. So that's what concerns you is when a guy feels something in his fingers, they're going to want to do an MRI and what they're going to find. Because advice used to be, when I first had elbow trouble was 05, and the advice was it was at the end of the season, it was the playoffs, and I had tingling in my fingers, and they didn't do an MRI. They just said, let's just rest up and see how it feels in the spring. Never hurt again. It didn't hurt again until 2013.
Right.
But I mean, now when they do an MRI, they don't say, you have a partial tear of your ligament. Let's rehab it and let it heal. They say, let's fix it, because they're so confident in the surgery. So they just want to go in and fix it. They act like, Tommy John's just filling a cavity now. Like, you just staple it up and put you back out there in a year, you'll be fine. But anytime you can avoid, opening up that joint and going in there, I would. But that's the difference now. That's why you see so many Tommy Johns, because as soon as they see any partial tear in there, they just want to fix it, cut it open, and sew it back together.
Man, but if you're a relief pitcher and he's in the second year of a 2-year deal, especially if you're 30 or older, the last thing you want is to be hitting a free agent market, coming off Tommy John, post 30 years old. Good luck getting a deal,
That was my timing in 2013. I got off to a rough start, and I had some stuff going on in my fingertips, and I went and talked to Porter, our trainer at the time, and he told me, let's just get some Voltaren and get you a little rest. And my agent wanted to do an MRI. I didn't. I was like, I know if they go in there, because we'd done an MRI we did an MRI in June on my elbow 2012, and they found a partial tear. And I pitched the rest of the year better than I pitched before that. I finished the year strong. And 2013, I got off to a rough start. They saw that tear, and it was kind of like, it's been here for a while. It's getting worse. You got to have the surgery. But I always kick myself for that, because I'm like, everything was going smooth up until that point. And then I was never the same after the surgery.
Well, and they said Maddox pitched, I don't know how many years, but a lot of the last end of his career with a partial tear that nowadays, like you said, most guys would get Tommy John, and he kept pitching.
Huddy apparently, when I signed with the A's, I was talking to the trainer because I had another partial tear in my shoulder, in my labrum. I had a tear, and I was panicking because I'm sitting down with the trainer after my physical. I was like, we're still gonna do this deal, right? I had a 2-year deal coming off of Tommy John, so I'm coming off of Tommy John, and I had a partial tear in my shoulder, and they still signed me. That's how much it explains that there's always stuff going on in pitchers' arms. But he was telling me, he's like, we're not even worried about it. Huddy's shoulder's been hanging halfway off since he was here. They'd done his, and his labrum was completely shredded. I don't know. He never even had shoulder surgery.
No.
He pitched, and maybe in his late 30s he did, but he pitched the rest of his career from the time he was Oakland all the way through his career when he finished up with the Giants with his shoulder just hanging on by a shoestring.
No, he had Tommy John when he was with the Braves.
He had Tommy John. I know that.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just my advice to pitchers is don't ever get an MRI, because you just don't want to know what's going on in there.
Yeah.
So they're going to do an MRI though, I bet.
But I've heard that so many times though, is if you did an MRI on the elbow or shoulder of every pitcher that's been in the big leagues for a few years, almost none of them are going to be sound.
Nope.
Perfect.
And that's everybody's talking about, they think the velo and all this other stuff is why Tommy Johns are up, but it's just the confidence that everybody has in the surgeons and the process and the rehab of Tommy John, that now anytime you have an MRI on your elbow, it shows that tear, and pitchers go get the surgery and get it fixed.
It's become so commonplace, but people don't realize how brutal it is to go through the rehab for a year. I mean,
it's misery. I couldn't even, after that surgery, anytime something hurt, I was like, I'm not telling anybody. I don't want to have another surgery. I don't want to be out rehabbing. I mean, you're stuck with your elbow like this for the first, I think it's the mental stress too of not knowing how it's going to heal and if you're going to be back. And if you're, I wish I never did it.
And then the first time you try to pick up a ball or whatever, you're like, oh my God, this is never coming
back. You're throwing 60 feet at 36 miles an hour. There's your workout for the day.
This series, the Braves, the first four, Acuna, Albies, Freeman, and Ozuna, were a combined 3 for 44 in the series. Acuna was 2 for 12. Dude, that means the other guys were 1 for 32.
Yeah. There's no way to sugarcoat it. The offense sucked. They sucked for a series. And you're going to have series where the pitchers suck. And that's part of being a team. You pick each other up. They weren't able to do it, but
this is when it's nice to have that great team chemistry too. When guys don't point fingers, they
or
don't
panic. or
It's
panic.
like last year when the starters were, exiting after 2, 3, 4 innings every night. And the bullpen was just carrying so much of the burden. They
Mm-hmm.
never complained. They never said, look, we're going to have bad nights when we're out there pitching 6 innings a night. You know, they never said that. So, and there were periods where the offense carried the pitching staff. So that's important to think. I think about guys genuinely liking each other.
And the importance of leadership, because
Yeah.
when you start off 0-3, you got to answer questions about it. And young guys will, that outside pressure can ooze into the clubhouse and guys can start feeling that, but you need a leader, somebody that's been through it 1,000 times. And Derek Lowe used to walk around the clubhouse just saying it's still early. He'd be saying that in September. I mean, he'd just scream it all the time just to emphasize the point, not to panic. But you, if you don't have good leaders, that stress and that pressure can kind of creep in, and you could feel, a little bit of pressure from that 0-3 start. But the guys they're not worried about it.
Tell me something. How much do you think they appreciate not having an open clubhouse right now during a series like that? They don't have to answer those questions.
It's tiresome. I mean, you wind up not wanting to suck, so you don't have to answer questions about it more than actual feeling the pressure from the games.
So the only guy that even has to answer the question is Snit, and then
Yep.
whoever they bring out to the Zoom. So sucks for us.
Yeah.
Sucks for the fans who want to hear, players say it. But if you're a player, you're like, right now, this is nice not having open.
Yeah.
Clubhouse.
I mean, baseball quotes are so vanilla anyway, though. You just you throw out your cliches.
It's early. It's one series. Blah blah blah. That's all you hear. That's all you ever hear.
And it's hard when the cliches are true, but you just get tired of saying the same thing. You wind up just wanting to fix it so you can move on, in that side of the game. Are you there? Lose him again?
Yeah, it looks like he dipped out. He'll be back in a second.
Dave's skimping on his internet bill.
He is. There he is.
I don't know what's going on today with this thing. So the Braves have 12 total hits so far. The Astros and the Dodgers each have 12 doubles. They have 47 hits apiece. The Astros and the Dodgers do. Among teams that have played 3 games, it's fun with the small sample size because these numbers are so crazy. Among teams that have played 3 games like the Braves, the Royals have 36 hits. The Royals, 3 times as many hits as the Braves. And Kansas City scored 28 runs in its opening 3-game series to the Braves 3. These are things that are not going to play out over the course
of the season. Which team you putting your money on?
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of underscores the fact that anything could happen in a 3-game series, man. But yeah, like you were talking about Phillies, maybe you weren't convinced at all the Phillies can be a factor. But I swear, after watching their pitchers, I know we didn't get deep into their bullpen and we didn't see their number 4 and 5, but their pitchers had a 0.61 WHIP, and they held the Braves to a 128 batting average in that series. I was convinced by those 3 starters and the back end of that bullpen. Dave did a good job in a short time bringing in a couple of guys at the back end of that bullpen that are going to be going to help them tremendously. Because last year, for those who might have forgot, they had a 7.06 bullpen ERA last year, worse than the majors. 7.06, which is hard to do. That's awful.
Well, it's deflating too.
Yeah.
Because you lose games you should have won, and there's nothing harder for a team to swallow than your whole team does everything they're supposed to, and some dipshit reliever comes in and gives up a 4 spot.
Yeah.
Because you beat the other team, you handled their starter. That's another reason why the bullpen being strong is so important, is just the emotional aspect of the game. And those games you lose that you should have won, and you beat them for 7 or 8 innings of the game and you still lost, those are the hardest for teams to swallow. But I mean, this series, the Braves just got beat. They could have won. They could have won all those games. And I'm going back and forth whether I like that extra inning rule over 162 or not. But it didn't work out for him in the 10th.
Yeah, the only thing I like about it is you don't get those 16, 18 inning games where a reliever has to get optioned to the minors the next day. And, there's just a lot of crazy stuff that comes out of that's not right. And usually it's just the end zone, and the guy makes a mistake and the guy hits one out,
Yeah. Yeah. It's those games that someone's going to have to mess up. They're never going to end once guys go into, trying to hit that game winning homer mode. But
Yeah, especially as they get deeper, longer and longer.
it definitely, it takes bullpen depth and rotation depth out of the equation because you don't have to have as deep of a pen. All of a sudden you get a runner on second for free and you get a cheap hit and you get to walk a team off. That's kind of why I liked it last year, because last year just felt kind of like a fake season anyway for the most part until you got to the playoffs. But this is a real season now. It's 162 and it could come down to one game.
Absolutely. I like it. I think I like it. I mean, I know I like it. It's just you got to be ready for it though, because it happens so quickly. You got to know what you're going to do. Okay. Are you going to, because are you going to bunt? If you're the offensive team, are you going to bunt? And that depends. Are you at home? Did they score on the top of that? Because if they don't score, if the visiting team doesn't score, it makes it so easy for the home team, because all you got to do is get that one run. You
got 3 shots to hit a bloop single and you win the game.
Get him over, and then you're set. I mean, if you got a guy that can bunt, I don't know. To me, it emphasized. I like the fact that it should, for teams, they should emphasize the bunt a little more. They should have guys that can at least put down a bunt, because if that guy can get him over to third,
fly ball wins it.
Yeah, exactly.
Situational hitting, it's definitely taken a hit in the last 5 years, because players don't get jobs to be able to do that anymore.
Yeah,
they want to see you. They want to see you hit. They'd rather see you hit 260 with 30 than which a lot of us would. But
yeah,
it's just, you'd almost want to build your bench to have a really good situational type of hitting.
A guy like Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah. That can go up there. He's not going to strike out. The one thing you can't have happen is a strikeout with that first at bat.
Right. Exactly.
If you could just get a good at bat. I mean, if you got a guy, you can put the bat on the ball, you could just hit a ground ball to the right side. If it trickles through, you win.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't, and he did his job, you got to run it on third, 1 out. So, I mean, it definitely does, maybe in a sense it does emphasize that situational part of the game that a lot of us appreciate.
Yeah. Ironically, something that's like a sideshow emphasizes the fundamentals of the game more than, any other thing that we've had lately. Yeah. But a guy like, Sandoval, that's the guy you want up there in that situation,
He's hard to strike out.
Yeah. Or if the guy gets to third, now there's 1 out. Again, you want Sandoval up there getting you a sac fly or a ground ball to the right side, in the hole.
I think too, there's an emotional aspect for guys that are trying to be heroes. So you want players that don't need to hit a 2-run walk-off homer there.
Right.
If you're at home, you want a guy that doesn't need to make the highlights. You want a guy that can just take his slap single, and there's less and less of that happening in the game too.
Yeah. Now, if you've got teammates and one of them's a guy like Sandoval, who's a World Series MVP, 3-time, a couple of time All-Star, 3-time World Series champion, he's going up there to do the right thing. He doesn't give a shit. He's not trying to hit a home run. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he hits a home run the other day. He's not trying to hit one though. He's up there trying to have a good at bat.
Yeah.
Man, he's still got bat speed. Did you see that bomb?
Let him eat.
Dude's got bat speed. It just looks so. You're not expecting it. He gets up there and he's this fat guy up there, and all of a sudden it's like, and he pulls that ball to the seats. It was like, whoa.
Yeah, he destroyed that ball.
He's a ball player, man.
Yeah.
This guy probably couldn't play any other sport, but he can play baseball.
Baseball, you don't have to leave the ground. So
look at John Kruk.
Yeah.
He's kind of John Kruk, Archie Bradley and Jose Alvarado. Those were the 2 big pieces for them. Now you're going to need more than that over 162, but for a series like that, then you get Neris coming in, and Neris look great. But Alvarado, that dude's easy 100.
Yeah.
He's up there throwing 99, 100.
I can't figure out if the guns are faster now or what's going on, but it seems like every single guy can just sit 96, 97.
Yeah. Pache just about got that ball in 2 on him, 100.2.
Yeah.
Opposite field. Could the whole series might have been different, who knows?
Well, that's, they changed the balls a little bit. Changed the balls a little bit.
Yeah, I thought overall, Pache, I don't know what the numbers even say. I just know what I saw. And I thought he had a good series. Made a great throw, man. Great throw. Yeah.
So did
How about the throw that Acuna made to second base?
And it was Harper too.
Yeah. Loved it.
trying to test him a little bit, but
Yeah. Gunned him down. Man, I think over the course of the season, we're going to see some great outfield play. And I'll tell you what, Ozuna handled every opportunity, every chance that was hit to him, and there were some pretty difficult ones. He came in fine on balls like on the line, about 40 feet up. He went back to the wall fine. I mean, if you didn't know that his past, you would have watched him gone, oh, yeah, that guy's fine out there. Just typical outfielder.
There was just that one play climbing the wall, and the ball lands on the warning track. I mean, I'm sure the stats show he might be average or below average, whatever, teams are worried about. But I think, going through a trip of free agency and seeing that's holding you up.
Yeah.
Teams were worried about having to put him in the outfield. It's something you're gonna really work on.
I think in left field, he's okay. He's fine. Right field, you don't want to do that. We saw that twice last year. He played right field, especially with that tricky wall at that high wall in Atlanta. Right field, no, because the arm's not real good. But left field, he's fine.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to. He had a lollipop throw in that first game that was not good. Yeah. But I think over the course of a season and a series, he's going to be okay out in left field for the bat he's going to give you. But
he's worth it.
Yeah, the Philly relievers, though, that you wanted to get to their bullpen last year, obviously, because any game was winnable. You could be down 4 and you could still beat them last year. They limited the Braves to 1 hit and 2 walks with 8 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings in that series. So you just did not see that last year from them, even in one series.
So that's a game changer, having a strong pen, because it takes a lot of pressure off your starting staff too, and it puts pressure on the other team's offense. If you got Alvarado and Archie Bradley throws gas, he's closed,
and then Neris throws gas.
Neris throws gas, but he's got that split that guys just can't pick up on.
Yes.
So now as an offense, once you get to the 6th, if you're not in control, it could be over.
So I don't know what else they got, but those 3 right there gives them a big up on what they had last year. I'll tell you that. If they get 6 or 7 out of their starter, they're looking good there. So, something interesting. I looked up. The Braves are 3 games behind the Phillies now. Braves never trailed by more than 2 games last year. Again, it's a 60-game season, so it's very different. But they never trailed by more than 2 games in the NL East last year. They were 2 behind after 21 games last season. Then they were tied 2 days later, and they took sole possession of first place in the 24th game of the year last year and led the rest of the way. Sole possession.
So what date would that be? They need to do that by this year.
What? So probably 4 weeks into the season?
Yeah.
End of this month?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, even when you look at it and you're 3 games back, you have to look at it as games back too. You're 3 games back, and in September, the other team's not comfortable. 3 games back in April, who cares?
No, we've seen that from the Braves, 8, 10 games ahead.
It was 10, I think. It was 10 in 2011. We had a 10-game lead on the Cardinals in the wild card. I remember Derek Lowe saying it, man. Because people were starting to panic, and he said the only way we don't win this division is if the plane crashes. That's how confident we were feeling at the time. So, I mean, it can definitely happen, but yeah, it's a long season.
Did you tell him after it was over the plane crashed?
That plane crashed in a sense.
That's what Freddie felt like. Oh, yeah, was that still Bobby or was Freddie?
That was Freddie.
Yeah, Freddie's
got the first year.
Freddie had 2 of them. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, that was that was 2010. Yeah, everything that could go wrong went wrong, including as Chipper put it, when you lose a ground ball in the lights.
Things aren't going your way.
Because that's what happened at Florida State at the old park.
I think Infante
player Joe Robbie
walked us off with a chopper, in the lights.
They lost in the lights because they didn't have baseball lights. Obviously, they were designed for football, but he lost it in the lights. I've never seen it before or since.
That was such a nightmare.
Braves lost a game on a chopper the other day. Chop single over Austin Riley's head.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. It's that throwing that runner on second base. It takes. You just have to put the ball in play, and you can win the game. Just a little chopper or a bloop single.
Especially on a windy, cold day like that, field's hard, dirt's hard in front of the plate. Yep. He hit that thing. It was he didn't have a chance. Got close to it, but he really didn't have a chance.
Yeah,
it was bomb before he could think about it. So let's see. The Braves scored 3 runs, struck out 35 times in the series. A year ago, remember that crazy number of strikeouts they had early last season? I remembered that and I looked it up because I remembered it was huge totals. They struck out 74 times in the first 6 games last year, that seasoning opening trip to Mets and the Rays when they faced the Mets and the Rays. And although after getting shut out on opening day last year, they scored 33 runs in the next 5 games.
Yeah.
So they were swept. You don't have to go back far, though, to recall a time when this happened to the Braves. 2 years ago, they were swept at Philly in the opening series when they had Kyle Wright and Bryce Wilson both had to make starts because everybody was hurt.
Yeah.
Folty was hurt coming back like 3 weeks into the season, whatever. They had a couple of the guys that were hurt. So they started both of those guys and they weren't ready at that time. So, but they got pounded that opening series in Philly 2 years ago. Then they went home and they won 4 in a row against the Cubs. They swept the Cubs and then the Marlins. They won 4 in a row against the Cubs and Marlins and outscored those teams 27-8, including the shutout to start each of those 2 series at home. That was after getting swept by the Phillies. So they don't get to go home this time. They got to go down the highway to Washington to face Scherzer and Strauss. So we'll see.
Well, the hard part about it is you can always kind of, when you run into teams with this good of pitching, you can kind of blame it on that, but that's going to be in the division all year.
Exactly.
You're gonna have to go up against pitching like that all year, and luckily they have it too. But it could, they could have a rough series in Washington too, going against 2 guys that you make the same excuses. We just ran into good pitching. And it's not an excuse, actually. I mean, it's a legit reason. If Max Scherzer's locked in and Strasburg's locked in, they're as good as anybody in the game.
I don't think anybody put the Phillies rotation more than 4th in the division going in, and maybe 5th behind the Marlins with those young arms they have.
Yeah.
So, but if you watch that series against the Braves, you would have got these are the worst starters in the division. Holy shit. This division is stacked.
It is. It's stacked.
I don't know that there's been a division that has this good of starting pitching, at least like the first 3 guys on every team. I'd have to go back and look it up. Be hard to look up, but I don't know that there's been a division in recent memory that has this many good starters on each team.
Every team. I mean,
every team.
You'd have a team with an ace, like you'd have Josh Johnson you had to go up against, but then after that, you'd have Anibal Sanchez, who's a really good pitcher, but he's beatable when he's on, you can get him. Like if you go to New York and DeGrom, Syndergaard, and Stroman are locked in.
Yeah.
It's tough. There's going to be good baseball though for people that really appreciate it. There's going to be a lot of well-pitched games.
I love it, man. I love these games instead of 8-7, 10-9. Yeah. I like a good 3-2 game. You want to see a big home run game now and then, but not every night in. You want to see well-pitched games, just better 2.5 to 3 hour games instead of 3.5 to 4.
I was wondering that Milwaukee game, Corbin had a no-hitter and the dude he was going up against had a no-hitter too, all the way to like the 5th or 6th inning. Berrios had a no-hitter too, and Berrios got yanked with a no-hitter at 84 pitches. That shows you how much the game's changed right there.
What'd you think of that?
I want to throw up.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the way they look at it is there's no way we're letting him go 9.
Right. So,
but even six innings.
Yeah.
You're getting through 7.
I'm thinking the rationale is, like you said, it's 84 pitches already. So what if we let him go another inning and he's through 7 and 100 pitches? Then do you go, that's a quick inning. What if he has a 10-pitch inning? Yeah. So then you're at 110, 15 pitches through 8. You don't take a guy out with a no-hitter through 8. So that's the rationale, and I understand it.
Get him out before the pressure to keep him in was there.
Yep. And Craig Counsell is really smart.
Well, that was Rocco Baldelli that did it.
Oh yeah, that's Berrios. Yeah.
But I was wondering, just in general, if
Rocco Baldelli's smart.
Yeah, he's.
But I see the rationale. You know what I'm saying? I do see the rationale. It's an easier decision to make then than 1 inning later.
Oh, if he goes another one, you can't take him out.
Yeah,
but I don't think you can take him out through 6. 84 pitches isn't a lot.
No,
I guess not. This early in the year it might be, but I didn't watch every pitch. I don't know if he was laboring or if he was grinding through at bats, but you're supposed to be at 6 pitches an inning or 15 pitches an inning. So 15 pitches an inning through six, you're at 90.
Yeah. But
So
like we said,
he's under pace to go 7 innings at 105.
but like we said, though, that's the problem, though. What's the difference in if he goes 6 no hit or if he goes 7 no hit? He's not going to go 9 because he's going to have 115 pitches to go 9, and you're not going to have to do that to him first game, probably. I mean, just remember when the no hitter that what Santana threw,
Yeah.
Johan. He was, I mean, I know that's an extreme example, but he was never the same after they let him go 130 or whatever that night. And in the first game of the year, nowadays, because it wouldn't have been anything back in the day, to go 115 in the first game, but it is now because these guys aren't conditioned to do it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it being early, but I just don't, push him back a day. Let him make history. Push him back a day or two. I mean,
so you're leaving him in.
I'm leaving him in.
What if
I'm
he's
seeing
through,
what happens.
what if he goes through 8 or if he's through 7 in 100 pitches?
He's in. You got a
What
no
if he's
hitter.
110?
He's in. I'm not taking him out. I don't care. I'm no hitter, man.
But like you said, you would burn the franchise down to make trades together.
I would. Yeah, I would have burned this franchise down 2 years ago trying to get that bullpen stronger. Or making a trade last year for a starter when they were struggling, and that worked out. I'm not a expert in that category, but
well, how about Leiter getting taken out the other day after he had thrown a no hitter his previous start?
I'm cooler with that.
He gets taken out after he's got another no hitter going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with that though because he already got himself a no hitter. Back to back would be pretty cool too, though. Dave, you got to get you got to pay your internet bill.
He needs the 5G. He needs something. I'll come back in a second.
I hear a cat. Got him? Now he's muted. Hit that mute button, Dave.
I want to apologize for my internet. Jesus Christ. This has not happened in a while. We there?
Yeah, we're good.
So what did you think of Leiter? Of Leiter's kid getting taken out, Jack, after he throws a no hitter, and he's got another no hitter going in his next start, and he got taken out.
I think his future's looking pretty bright. I mean,
My God, this guy, he takes a no hitter in the 6 or 7 inning every start.
I mean, I think at the start of the year, people were asking which guy you want, Rocker or Leiter. Yeah. And I remember telling Moylan I wanted Leiter, just looking at his stuff. But I mean, it's a tough choice, but
yeah,
he's high intensity though. I mean, he's max effort. That might factor in, the way he pitches.
Yeah.
That might factor into why you'd want to take him out and not let him get that second no hitter. And I think Absolutely. It makes it easier when you've already got a no hitter in the bag, to take a guy out. But it seems to me like it's not as many this, past couple years. Last year was a crazy year, but I feel like no hitters aren't quite what they used to be.
No,
I used to see maybe one a season, and there was a season there where I felt like Arrieta threw one.
Oh yeah, there was one like every other week for that one
like,
season. Yeah,
a
couple years ago.
Yeah. So maybe it doesn't have the same effect. It wasn't a perfect game, but still, it's a no hitter.
And also, listen to this. You got a great coach at Vanderbilt, great program. You've got a generational type talent with Leiter. His dad is Al Leiter. Are you going to answer to Al Leiter if you leave this kid in to throw a no hitter when he's already got one the previous week? And in your head, you're going, okay, we're already at 80 pitches. He's going to take 120. You're going, there's no way I'm telling Al Leiter I left this kid in, throw a no hitter. He's at 120 pitches the 9th inning, and he gets hurt. There's no way.
That's a big difference too, because he hasn't made any money yet.
Right.
I mean, he's got his whole pro career ahead of him.
You could cost a generational talent. You're not messing with
everything.
That. You're like,
dude, yeah.
I'd rather him be angry at me than his dad be angry at me when he gets hurt and facing a lawsuit, with some crazy stuff. You just don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking all these things, especially if you're a great coach there, and he's going to throw another one probably before it's over anyway.
Yeah.
Shit, every time he goes out there, he might throw one.
Yeah. Like, just do it next time, man, and keep your pitch count down.
And this
You
is
do it every
facing
time out.
SEC competition too. This guy's not facing, it's not a basketball team playing a division, a 1AA team early in the year. They're facing SEC talent. He's doing this.
You could throw him in the big leagues right now, and
Oh, absolutely. I bet he spends less than a season in the minors.
he'll be like Lincecum, where it's just like 2 or 3 starts and you're up. And then, maybe there's a learning curve at the big leagues once he gets there, but I don't see anybody in AAA or any level of the minors really even giving him a chance to learn anything, because his stuff's so damn good. And I think that's just an advantage of having a dad that you gotta figure the knowledge that his dad was able to pass on to him. He's advanced mentally well beyond the years of a normal 21-year-old.
I mean, you just watch his dad on MLB Network when he breaks down pitching. He does that to me. He does that better than anybody.
Yeah. He's
Anybody.
awesome.
When he starts going on MLB Network and starts showing, I take notes, man. That guy.
Yeah. Not just sequencing either, mechanical stuff, and there's always a video of Leiter, the hitter step out of the box, and he's just sitting here waiting for him.
It's awesome.
Like, he never loses focus.
I love that one.
That's something his dad taught him. He said, head down and just wait. But learning that stuff from your dad is, you're going to be so far beyond anybody else.
His dad's got so much energy too. When you have passion, when he's explaining a grip and stuff, coming over and I covered his dad with the Marlins. I covered his dad through the first no-hitter for the Marlins in 95. So I covered that. So to see his kid out there throwing no-hitters now. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things in baseball is I saw Mike Cameron's son make a diving play in the gap the other day, and Mike was watching it on his phone in the clubhouse he's coaching. But that's one of my favorite things in baseball is seeing kids come up. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Biggio. You see these guys,
Bichette.
They move like their dad. Bichette moves like his dad. That's one of my favorite things to watch.
Vlad Guerrero, especially since this kid lost the weight. Now he really looks a lot more like his dad.
Same swing.
Yeah.
Same swing. Prince Fielder's son. He's gonna be good.
That was crazy. Yeah. Their bodies.
Good. Yeah.
He was like his dad, only in shape, or better
that's
shape.
A scary thought.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought because Prince was always overweight. He was always a big guy. But
when he did that body thing though for ESPN, as big as he was still put together. He wasn't just strong. Like sloppy.
No.
I mean, that dude that's one of those bodies that you're like, wow, he could have been a lineman or whatever he wanted to do with that body.
Just power athlete. And that's kind of the same logic I have with Sandoval. He went to Boston, everybody's picking on him for being heavy, but power guys that can move, I mean, their body supports that extra weight just fine. Just let them be.
Yeah, look like heavyweight wrestler in college or something. So the Braves are probably going to, everybody said, why don't they just play a doubleheader too? Well, you're not going to play a doubleheader on Washington's opening day, one thing. And then you're not going to play a doubleheader on Wednesday because it's getaway day for the Braves. The Nationals are going to LA. You could play Thursday, but the Nationals are going to LA to start Friday. So they're not going to do that. So you have 2 more trips in. The Braves take 2 more trips into DC. So you can easily schedule a doubleheader for one of those series. And that's what they'll do. So to answer anybody's questions, everybody gets impatient, wants to get it knocked out right now. And then everybody's like, why is the Braves being punished? Shouldn't the Nationals have to play? Why do they have a taxi squad? They had it's like 10 guys wiped out between guys that tested positive and guys that are just quarantined because they had, the trace testing, whatever. They were close enough to those guys. So that's a little extreme to expect a team to play with like that many guys out, bringing all the guys from the alternate site. So
in
with 2 or 3 guys,
too,
you make them play.
Their first game with fans since they won the World Series, they're not going to make them do that. But I kind of agree in a sense that's another thing that should fall on the responsibility of a team. That's trying to stay away from all that. And we talked about that pressure a lot last year. But opening series, they're not going to do that to them. So much time to make it up.
But if you have, there should be a limit too. They should say if you've got 3 or 4 or fewer guys, you have to play because that's why you do have the alternate site.
Yeah. I mean, that was the point of it, but 10 guys is a lot.
And there should be a punishment because I know that Rizzo said, our guys have done, it's not their fault. They've done all the right things. Well, obviously they didn't if you have that many guys because, They're not following all the rules if you got that many people that have tested positive.
Yeah. I mean, it only takes one guy messing up, but that's on the leadership aspect of the team to tell guys to follow all the protocol.
But then but if one guy messes up, they're testing all the time and all that. That's got to spread pretty quickly if the other guy's got it and they're wearing a mask and everything.
Yeah.
But there was this scenario that Brett mentioned that was hilarious. It's not going to work out now probably, but if the Nationals, if for some reason they had to cancel this series against the Braves, right? They go out to play the Dodgers next. The Dodgers is going to be their home opener. The Dodgers would present their rings from last year's World Series before the Nationals, because the Nationals are going to present theirs from the year before, and they still haven't done it. They're going to do it in front of fans for the first series. The Dodgers would have given out their rings before from 2 years ago, or from last year before the Nationals did from 2 years ago.
Man, that'd be so weird. I mean, who's even left on the team?
I know.
Like it's.
I know. What's the point?
Yeah.
There's not many. I mean, obviously there's a couple of pitchers and main guys, but there's a lot of guys gone, man.
And they've had their rings for a year now.
They got to raise the flag and all that. They got to raise they got to raise the World Series flag or whatever they're going to do. You got to just say we got screwed, man. We can't celebrate it now, though.
Yeah.
But they really did you talk about the most overshadowed World Series victory in history.
Yeah.
They did not get to enjoy that. Remember, they go into spring training before the quarantine, even before the pandemic even started. They were completely overshadowed there because everybody was focusing on the Astros, who share a facility with them because of the Astros cheating scandal.
Yeah.
So they were never in the spotlight, the Nationals, after it was over.
Yeah, I mean, they got to do the fun part. They got to do the parade and the celebrating. I mean, that's one small thing, but
and they've got the rings.
Yeah,
nobody can ever take from them.
Yeah,
and they can say they're World Series champions, man. Real quick, let's do some picks. We forgot to do this the other day, but I think it's even better to do it now because you look even after some of these teams got off the horseshit starts, you're still going to pick them, and that means we're picking guys over the course of a long season rather than just following the trend, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's start with let's do them all. I'm going to go AL wild card. Hope you had a chance to look this over. I'm going to go Angels over the Rays for the AL wild card. And then I'm taking White Sox over the Angels and the Yankees over the Astros in the division series.
I don't like anybody beating the Rays in the wild card. I think I'll go.
Yeah, good point.
I'll say the Angels lose to the Rays in the wild card. I mean, Astros are going to win that division, but Yankees will win theirs. Yankees and Rays to go to the World Series.
Yankees and Rays to go to the ALCS, you mean?
The ALCS, sorry. Yeah.
Right. I'm taking the White Sox over the Yankees in the ALCS. How about that? Mark it down.
I don't know if I believe in the White Sox yet because the Twins have done it. I don't even know if the White Sox
Josh is hurt again. Shocker, huh?
Yeah.
People that wanted the Braves to sign him to that long-term deal. Man, that was a smart move. They got that year out of him.
Well, he plays hard too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that probably sets him back is when he's on the field, he's 120%. And he's laying out.
He's very physical.
He's swinging hard. He's got a big swing.
Body just won't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
So you got ALCS. Who'd you say?
Oh, man. Yankees, Twins.
Well, who you taking?
I'm taking Yankees.
All right. In the NL, I got the Padres over the Brewers in the wild card game. And I got the Braves over the Cardinals and the Dodgers over the Padres. Division foes are going to face each other in that.
Oh, man. Padres are going to be there.
There's no rule against that, right? They win a wild card game, Dodgers would, if their Dodgers are top seed, they still played them, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to lose to the Dodgers. Braves are going to play. I got the Braves win. and I got the Braves going again. But a good series against the Dodgers. I think they can beat them. Just haven't been through it with them before. But
Uh-huh.
I got to pick my guys.
So you're taking the Dodgers over who?
Dodgers, I think, going to play the Padres after Padres win the wild card.
Okay. Taking the Dodgers over that and then the Braves over the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, people are going to hate me, but I'm taking the Dodgers over the Braves.
I know.
But like I said last year, when I made this pick on our the athletic podcast that we did a thing roundtable night, I said, because nobody picked the Braves last year. Everybody's taking the Dodgers in 4 or 5 games. And I said, I'm taking the Dodgers, but don't be surprised. It's not going to surprise me if the Braves win it or at least go 7 games. I said that.
I'm taking them because they had them last year.
Yeah, they should have. They should have won last year.
They had them beat last year, and I think
Dodgers are better now though this year.
Yeah, but
so are the Braves. They should be pitching. They should be better because of pitching.
Bauer looked pretty good too.
He did. You see him do a strut.
Yeah.
I just don't know, of course, of year how his personality is going. They can absorb his personality, but it's not going to help the clubhouse.
But how can his personality handle a big market? You know, I mean, you see him snap at a 17-year-old girl on Twitter.
It's not a good fit.
You know? So I think I'm interested in how he struggles and all that. I mean, he went from Cleveland to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
You can kind of to LA where, and that's something we don't talk about a ton, but dealing with the media is a major factor because it's just constant reinforcement that you either sucked or you're good, you know? So there's going to be a lot more media asking him questions and people wanting him to fail because it's drama.
And season on anything that he does stupid or says, they're not just going to let it slough off by pitching great the next time out or whatever.
Well, you do that strut and then give up a 4 spot, you know, then you got to answer questions. It's kind of like with him, he ups the ante and he really enjoys that competition.
Yeah, he does. To his credit, he does.
I don't know how he'll enjoy really having, you know, a big media market on his ass when he struggles, you know, if he has 2 or 3 bad starts.
I mean, it's not New York, but it's a big media market and they will rip him.
Yeah.
You know,
and he hasn't done anything for them yet. So he doesn't have any loyalty built up in the fans. You know, you get off to a rough start, you got a big deal, you know, you can get booed in LA.
And you got a huge deal that's like costing them so much the first 2 years, going to limit them from going out and doing maybe some other things. So you better perform. And there's those out clauses in it.
Yeah.
So he needs to perform.
Yeah.
Or they'll be like, we gave you $45 million for this. We never gave Kershaw more than 35.
Yeah.
And he did it for us.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. So I got World Series. I got Dodgers over the White Sox. Who you got?
Well, I went Yankees Braves. So I'm gonna take the Braves. I think whoever wins the NL is gonna win the World Series.
I hope you're right, man. I mean, I hope you're right, and I'm wrong about the Dodgers over the Braves. I really do, and it's not going to surprise me at all if the Braves get a World Series. Not going to surprise me one bit.
I think the experience will play this year because I think that was one thing that the Dodgers did last year. Even when they were down, they just kept having tough at bats. They just kept grinding, and they just kept coming back into games and having big hits. And I think that was just one difference of the experience that the Braves didn't have yet. But you see the process, man. You see the teams work their way to that World Series and then lose it, and then come back and get it.
And look at the starters that the Braves would run out there in an NLCS this time compared to last year when they got blown up in that one game. You know, they didn't get out.
Charlie's been there before.
Charlie's been there. He's the best post-game pitcher of the last 5 years.
That's what I like.
3 games, 7 wins.
And that could be your number 3, you know, if everything's working out well.
If Soroka's back by then, he should be really strong. Man.
So you look at that, though. You look at
Charlie Soroka.
They had the Dodgers last year without Soroka.
Charlie Soroka and Ian Anderson. Oh. That might be better than the Dodgers 4. As crazy as that sounds, it might be.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know what Kershaw's going to be this year yet. Buehler obviously is great. Bauer's great. But 4 deep, I don't know. NL Cy Young, I'm gonna go chalk, man. I'm going DeGrom.
Yeah, it's easy.
So prove
he's the best pitcher in baseball.
Yep.
There's nobody I have more confidence in than Jacob DeGrom. You know, I mean, there's nobody that can dominate like him. There's a lot of guys close, but it's up to him when he's on the mound. I don't care what your offense is.
Yeah. And it was, in a 60-game season, you had a chance for a lot of guys to put up really similar numbers in a 60-game season, about 10, 11 wins or whatever. And over 162, though, I think the herd gets thinned. It's you can't keep those ERAs and those whips up for 162 game season that you could for 60. And that's where the talent, I think, is going to be.
He doesn't have any blow-ups either. He doesn't have those blow-ups. He's not good for 4 starts and gives up a 7 spot in his 5th. He's a bad start for him. 7, 8 innings, 3 runs.
The AL's a lot tougher to pick for me. I mean, it's just, I'm going to take Garrett Cole just because I think he didn't have. I'm going to take Garrett Cole.
Yeah, he's had a season to adjust to New York now.
Yeah.
And he's got a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah. Who you taking? You taking him?
Yeah, I'll go Cole too.
MVP. I'm going to have to go Betts, man.
See, this is the thing, though, is Mike Trout should win it every year.
Well, I know, but I'm going to NL.
At National League, Freddie. I'm going Freddie.
You going Freddie to win 2 in a row?
Yep.
When's the last time somebody won 2 in a row?
I want Freddie to do it, and I think
Bonds?
he can.
Was Bonds the last to win 2 in a row?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if it's a Braves guy, I think it'd probably be Acuna. But I'm taking Betts.
I take Freddie. I don't know if Freddie doesn't get the hype, but when I watch a game and all the guys I've played with, there's nobody that impacts a game like Freddie consistently.
Yeah.
That's what they used to always say about Pedroia too, but Freddie's such a major factor. He's so solid at defense. And I mean, I could see him having a better year this year. He had COVID last year and won the MVP.
Yeah. Yeah. He missed a 4th of the season.
Yeah. And still
he played, but he was out recovering basically for 4th of the season. I think the only thing that works against Freddie and Acuna is they're going to split the vote, I think, and with Ozuna as well. I mean, there's a lot of guys, good guys on the Braves. The Dodgers too, but Betts kind of rises above, I think, everybody. Bellinger, if he has a great year, could do that too there. So Tatis might slip in and do it, if the guys on those 2 teams kind of split the votes. Yeah, Tatis could easily do it, but.
Well, hype's such a big factor too, but I feel like you're going to have to win your division to be an MVP. I know it's not
probably
always,
this year you will.
It's not always looked at that way, but I think it's got to come from a team that wins division.
Right. I think you could do that like Andre Dawson did famously as the last place team, but that was in a year where nobody was great on the best teams,
Yeah.
The best teams have great players now.
Yeah.
I'll take Betts. I'm going to take Trout to win his 4th MVP in the AL.
Trout's got like that LeBron factor to him, where the only reason he wouldn't win an MVP is because he's so damn good. Yeah, it's just expected, and you almost take him for granted. But he should honestly win it every year.
I mean, if Shohei has games like he did last night,
yeah, I don't count on him.
Babe Ruth.
I don't count on Shohei staying
healthy,
and doing that. I love what he's doing. If you do that, if you're in the lineup every day and you also come out and throw 6 innings with 10 Ks, I mean, there's no debate. I can't believe the Angels got him for the deal they got him for.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the steal of the century, but I don't know if it seems like there's going to be, even yesterday, he almost got taken out of home plate covering home plate,
He did, man. That was awkward. And it was just, he was standing on the plate and jumped up you got to get out of the way.
He wasn't expecting a bad throw and just got caught, but that's that whole pitcher thing.
I gotta admit that I've been one of his doubters that he could do it, that he was good enough to do both sides. But last night I watched that game and that was like, he hit the hardest hit home run so far, 115 point something. And he threw the hardest pitch by a starter this year in the majors. I mean, it was 100.6 or something. Dude, he did that 10 minutes apart. There's a lot of great players in the major leagues, and he just did that
in minutes.
And that ball he hit too.
That was destroyed.
I think they're using different balls in that series than the Braves Phillies were using, because I didn't see balls come off the bat like that in that Braves Phillies series. I know.
Well, even still, Angel Stadium's not a hitter's park. They moved the fences down, so you don't have to hit it over that big wall in right field. But he cleared it by 40 feet.
But it's just crushed.
I don't know if, I mean, this is a once in a lifetime talent that you're
Yeah.
watching. You're never going to see anybody that can do something like this again. But I mean, I talked to Hinsky about him when he first came over because everybody wanted to know, and Eric Hinsky was coaching with the Angels at the time, and he said he has the most power I've ever seen.
Wow.
So
Hinsky's played with a lot of guys.
He's seen everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
he's seen a lot.
Wow,
He was even in the steroid era, at the end of
Yeah.
it. But um, the I don't think people realize how big Otani is.
Yeah. I think they
Yeah.
have a stereotypical thing. It's like the Asian players are pretty much the same size, that kind of thing. He's a huge dude.
He's a
Put
monster.
together.
Yeah. And
really
I think it benefits
athletic.
him. I think it benefits him a ton that he throws right-handed and swings lefty, just to balance out your hips and keep everything flowing well. I'd almost guarantee he doesn't have any back problems, but
God, that
to be able
swing
to,
was something. That bat speed he has.
the insane thing that he does for me is he takes a fastball in and hits it out to left field, and no doubters to left field, because he's got that Japanese inside out swing. But then when he sells out and he wants to pull, he hits a ball like he did last night.
That was up, man. God
Yeah,
damn. Yeah, he's special. Oof.
it's good for baseball.
It's great for baseball. I just don't think he can do it over the course of a full season. The demands are so much, as you know, better than anybody. I mean, what pitching, the demands of a pitcher, and then to go out there and hit every day. I don't know if he can do it every day. They're going to have to really do it judiciously. Madden's smart enough to figure it out. Maybe he did that on national TV. Here you go. Let's do that. But I don't know he can do that all the time.
Yeah, I think about it because as a pitcher, I'd rather be moving around between innings than sitting on the bench getting stiff. But I guess overall, it's just more exposure to get hurt. He almost got hurt at home plate yesterday.
Right.
Guy sliding in,
Right.
but it's just more exposure. It's just more plays you're involved in. There's not going to be a guy that throws 100 pitches and has 4 at bats and does anything the next day other than him.
Yeah.
He might be in the lineup. I mean, I'd definitely give him. It's going to be hard if they're competing too, but and he's hitting like he does. I'd give him the day after he pitched off just to try to recover because that's a high workload. But
Yeah.
then if he's your best hitter,
Pitcher hit. Well, he's not they got Trout on the team, but
I know that. But
he hit second.
If he's hot,
The pitcher hit second.
Yeah.
I just think he's got to be in tremendous shape, which he obviously is. But to avoid like the strings of like obliques and all that hitters get and the pitchers get, just I mean,
it's just the exposure.
You're
it's the
doubling
amount of
your
plays.
exposure.
It's the amount of plays he's involved in. You have position players that can't get through a full season.
Yeah.
You have pitchers that can't get through a full season. He's trying to do both.
Yeah.
I'd love it if he could, because it's the coolest thing I've ever watched.
And if he has some nagging little injury from either hitting or pitching, and then he has to do the other, he has to pitch with some nagging, like say a hamstring or a slight oblique twinge away, and he's got to go out and pitch,
Yeah.
Or if he's got something that he's got from pitching and he's got to go hit, and it's just, oh man, it's just so much going on there. Such a high level.
Well, at least he's not playing the field, because that would just be
yeah.
That'd be really bad. But I mean, it's 4 at bats a day when he's not pitching, but just keeping your body going that whole time too, and never really recovering. Starting pitchers need 5 days off for a reason. It's not just their arm; it's their whole body.
Yeah, if it was like high school or college and he was pitching and then going to play the outfield on the days he's not pitching,
I would not even. I would give him a shot to do that.
But maybe with the DH, maybe we'll see. It's going to be interesting to watch, and I'd love to see it too because it's great for the game. But I mean, he's a modern Babe Ruth.
Yeah. So that's why, I mean, Trout's my MVP, just based on the odds of Otani being able to do this all year. But if he does it all year, or even most of the year, I mean, that's a no doubter.
Hey, you got to go 1 year. You got to find out, right? I guess you got to find out. If you don't do it, then you're like, we should have tried it. We never tried it. If he gets hurt, then you're like, if he gets a major injury, they go, then we don't do this. We got to decide if it's going to hit or pitch. We can't do both anymore, though. But maybe you give it a shot, though, because if he gets to it a whole year, then you know he can do it. I don't know. I just
think you're always going to be feeling like this is going to fall apart at some point. But
yeah,
maybe he opens the door for more guys to do it.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah.
I mean, who else could do this? Jesus. Not in America, because they stop hitting so early,
Ankiel could have done it. Ankiel did it at separate times, but not at the same time.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is we're gonna have plenty to talk about. Started 2 week shows now, so you guys hang in there with us. And now we got real stuff to talk about, as you've seen on this show. And I'm sure the Braves are going to win a game soon.
They got a shot.
You guys got to come off the ledge, people. Braves will be fine. Too much talent not to be. They're not panicking. You shouldn't either.
Don't ride the roller coaster. You got a good team.
Remember, it's not football. I know it's hard sometimes. They'll be just fine. Even in a great division, they'll be fine. All right, that's it. We're done. Thanks for tuning in on all the various platforms. We appreciate it. 7:55 is real. We are out.
Good stuff.